If you're coming from my last video on retro game reviews, then you already know the deal. Rapid fire game reviews intended to get these games on people's radars without going too much in depth. I believe most games are best experienced going in blind, and I don't want to spoil people too much. For this list, I'll cover AAA games that came out since the year 2007. So, let's get right into the reviews. Number 1. If I had to choose one favorite game, it would probably still be Portal 1. It is such a cohesive experience from start to end, with phenomenal pacing, an engrossing story, and engaging and creative puzzles that utilize a unique mechanic. If you haven't played this game already, what are you doing? It goes on sale for $1 on Steam, and you can beat it in an afternoon, so there's no excuse. The greatest tragedy of this game is that you can never play it for the first time twice. But there's always Portal 2, which is also phenomenal. In addition to an amazing campaign, it has a great co-op mode and seemingly endless community-created levels, plus an easy-to-use level editor. Some of my favorite community-created maps are those in the Winter Testing Initiative, which, aside from having a great snowy custom theme, also features some of the most challenging Portal levels I've ever played. Number 2. While Mario 64 featured more open-ended levels to compensate for the less precise 3D movement, I feel that Mario Galaxy does the best job going in the other direction, with tight levels and platforming while not feeling overly like an obstacle course a la the 3D Land and World games. The creativity on display in the Mario Galaxy games is astonishing and a joy to play through. Number 3. Honestly, I have so many problems with Grand Theft Auto 4 that I might even argue it's the most overrated game of all time. It's overly dreary, melodramatic, and its gameplay so lacking in creativity and, well, fun, that it feels like a product of its time as a poster child of the awkward stage of early 7th generation AAA games. It's not an awful game, it's just fine. But you know what game is similar? Came out the same year and is way better than just fine? Saints Row 2. Sure, its graphics have aged like milk, but so have GTA 4's. And unlike its point of comparison, the former focused on fun. Plus, as someone who loves cities, Saints Row 2's Stillwater is my favorite in a video game. It's a microcosm of all the different types and places you'll find in modern America. This is the last Saints Row game before it started going totally balls to the wall. Apparently, developer Volition wanted to make the reboot like a spiritual successor to Saints Row 2, but publisher Deep Silver intervened and gave us the dumpster fire that we actually got. There was also a patch for the notoriously broken PC port that will now never be released, now that Volition no longer exists. That being said, it played fine on my laptop from a decade ago, so hopefully it will play okay on your machine. Number 4. 15 years later, and there still hasn't been a game as ambitious in its destruction gameplay as Red Faction Guerrilla. Blowing stuff up and watching buildings crumble is just a heck of a lot of fun. Not only that, for a game that takes place on Mars, each region of the game looks and feels distinct, which is really impressive. Number 5 and 6. These games defined a generation. I'm recommending GTA 5 and Red Dead 2 as a pair because they are both somewhat similar, not only in their weighty gameplay and emphasis on feeling like movies, but also in that I don't recommend most people actually finish them. Crazy, right? I personally feel that GTA 5's story drops off after the first heist, and that Red Dead 2's becomes a slog of shooting galleries after Chapter 4, with an unsatisfying conclusion. That being said, they are both not only impressive games with believable worlds and obsession with detail at scale, they're modern Rockstar games, and each of those are a phenomenon. I could, and others already have, spent hours dissecting them, from their gameplay, like the satisfyingly arcadey feel of GTA 5's cars, to what both of them say about America past and present, through their stories, environments, and characters. Despite all their flaws and myriad of competing elements and systems, both of these games are an achievement of modern media. Number 7. The best stealth action has to offer. Sure, Metal Gear Solid 5's story is not nearly as profound as the other games in the series, but the gameplay is completely unmatched. And as someone who didn't grow up with the other games, I actually enjoyed Kiefer Sutherland's more nuanced performance as Big Boss, I just wish he had more to say. This game has a lot to dissect, and for those interested in a more complete analysis, I would recommend the critique by MGS Obsessed Super Bunny Hop. Number 8. I'm typically not a fan of RPGs, especially JRPGs, nor tropey high school anime stories, but Persona 5 is something special. It's not just an RPG, it's a polished, bombastic, and actually fun RPG crossed with a social simulator. It effortlessly combines both genres where aspects of one blend into and enhance the other. It's easily one of the most stylish games I've ever played. Even an absurd amount of thought and detail went into the menus and UI design. This game is also very long, so set some time aside for it. That being said, I rarely put over 100 hours into a single video game, but for others that might not feel like as much of a commitment. Either way, I promise it's worth it. Number 9. The game that catapulted the Switch to becoming one of the best-selling consoles ever. Breath of the Wild brought the Zelda series roaring back. An open world not constantly littered with markers, one that actually invites and encourages the player to explore it the way they want at their own pace. When there are more linear sections, like the handful of dungeons, it seamlessly funnels the player into them. Breath of the Wild was revolutionary for open world game design, and there are many games that have come out since which clearly wear its influence on their sleeves. Number 10. Never write off a studio as a one-trick pony. Just because a studio is known for making one type of game doesn't mean they can't make one of another genre or style. Tango Gameworks, the Japanese studio known for The Evil Within and Ghostwire Tokyo, knocked it out of the park with Hi-Fi Rush. A game that released on the same day it was announced, with no hype, managed to be a standout success. Juggling platforming and rhythm combat, everything in this game moves to the beat, and I mean everything. The cohesiveness of the experience should not be understated, and it's a joy to play from beginning to end. I actually saw the game director speak in person, and even got a signed poster. Now, how does Microsoft reward one of its most talented and creative studios? It shuts them down. And the day after, a spokesperson says that they need more games like Hi-Fi Rush. Actually insane behavior. The industry needs to treat its workers with the respect they deserve. And we as players and as a society ought to enable artists to create better art. I know that last part wasn't necessarily related to Hi-Fi Rush itself, but after the studio behind my favorite recent game got shut down, I felt like I had to put it in there. I am a game developer too, after all. Now, on to some honorable mentions. I have a question for you. Do you like explosions? I said, do you like explosions? Do you like grappling hooks? Do you like hijacking helicopters and planes while they're in the air, crash landing them into an enemy base, while you parachute out at the last second? Do you want to feel like the baddest B-movie action hero? Well, I have the game for you, and it's called Just Cause 2. Or 3, that one's also good. Just Cause 2 has an appropriately B-movie story to go along with it. Just Cause 3 tries too hard on its story, and in my opinion, it doesn't mesh well with the insanely over-the-top gameplay. I also prefer the implausible amount of variety on Just Cause 2's Southeastern Asian-inspired map, compared to the exclusively Mediterranean environments in 3. It feels like these games have aged rather quickly mechanically, but they're still pretty fun. Unfortunately, the most recent entry, Just Cause 4, does nothing to mitigate this and is kind of a bland game all around. I wouldn't recommend that one unless you get it for free. This game feels like you're playing a movie, like Chinatown or LA Confidential. LA Noir's driving sections and shootouts should not have been included in the game, nor should this game have been open world, because it detracts from the real meat, which is its story. I honestly didn't think I'd like this game as much as I would. Similar to Phoenix Wright and other detective games, it being interactive forces you to follow the plot. And unlike Phoenix Wright, you can get the facts wrong and totally mess up a case. I had a professor who worked on both Dead Space 1 and 2, and likened them to Alien and Aliens. The sequel of this franchise veers in a similar direction, focusing more on action horror. but is also astoundingly well paced. My professor said that the popularity of Gears of War was why EA pushed for this new direction, and that one of the level designers was an ex-Valve employee. That certainly explains why the level design and pacing is so darn good. This game is insane. In its second installment, Bayonetta no longer has amnesia. She knows who she is and who she wants to be. Bayonetta 2 builds on the original in all the best ways, and has some of the most satisfying and over-the-top hack-and-slash action I've ever played. Just kill demons on Mars. Doom 2016 learned from what was wrong about Doom 3. Rather than focus on cutting-edge real-time lighting that would age like milk and force the entire game into the most claustrophobic corridors, Doom 2016 prioritized fast, demon-shredding combat above all else. Even though that's the focus, I enjoyed the levels and the platforming. One of the chapters near the end reminded me a lot of Half-Life 1. Plus, they communicate how Doomguy feels so well without him uttering a single word. Not many AAA games took as much of a risk as centering the game around parkour and nothing else. I'm talking about Mirror's Edge and its sequel, Catalyst. Unfortunately, both of these games are plagued with unique issues. The OG has a nice variety of locations, but is hampered by awful level design that is at odds with the running gameplay, constantly stopping you in your tracks. Catalyst took many lessons learned from its predecessor and improved upon them. Rather than taking a bit to get to a flow and level design which constantly impedes that virtual runner's high, Catalyst's sprinting warm-up is much more rapid and its level design much more fluid. Thankfully, Catalyst also ditches the guns entirely, replacing it with an often clunky and comedic, albeit more unique and narratively cohesive close quarters combat system. Another thing it does away with is the flash animated cutscenes, replacing them with high-quality pre-rendered ones with surprisingly good acting. It just sucks that the story and script aren't very good. Both games are creative in their minimalist design, featuring bright, bold colors and lots of textureless surfaces to illustrate its corporate dystopia. Unfortunately, this game had a flawed execution of its open world, chronicled by Game Maker's Toolkit in his video. The mixed reception kept me from playing this game for a long time, but it has so many redeeming qualities, is unique in today's AAA landscape, and is honestly just a fun game that I can easily recommend it in spite of all that. This game is from a series that many didn't enjoy, but I actually did. That's Watch Dogs 2. Definitely the best of the three, with a more likable protagonist and quirky cast, and playing the game today feels like experiencing a mid-2010s time capsule. The stealth action gameplay is fun and sets it apart from other, more action-oriented open-world crime games. I would definitely recommend playing this one non-lethally. This game felt like teenager awesome in the best way possible. Sci-fi, parkour, mechs, yeah, I'm talking about Titanfall 2. Its campaign is short but sweet, and if any of what I just said appeals to you, then I'd recommend giving it a shot. Big bosses. It's none other than Shadow of the Colossus. I'll knock this game for not having much else to do outside of the boss fights, but damn they are good. This is one of the OG artsy games, and having played both the remaster and the remake, I can say that the latter pretty faithfully captures the original. Ride your horse and slay some beasts. Epic open world fantasy ARPG. Claimed to be a modern masterpiece by many. To no one's surprise, Elden Ring. Yeah, crucify me for not including it in my top 10, but I didn't not put it there just because it's pretty unforgiving. There are plenty of legitimate criticisms and critiques that I and others have levied against the game that are often either ignored or hand-waved in the general discourse. I and others, however, think that while Elden Ring is largely amazing, with phenomenal art and a great open world, it struggles in a myriad of ways, small and large, that bring down the experience even for skilled players. Chronicling those would be a video in itself, but in spite of them, it's still a fantastic game I can easily recommend. I almost didn't include this one. It's another game with mechs, and by From Software. Yeah, it's Armored Core 6. Notoriously difficult, as to be expected, I recommend a mouse and keyboard for this one. Some of the dialogue is anime sounding cringe, but The blazing fast gameplay and insane customizability is damn fun. That's it for this one. What do you think of my list? Do you have any different opinions about these games? My next video in this series will cover indie games. Thanks to my patrons as always, and see ya!